So we're talking today about digitising the quality management process. So just a quick introduction. BuildStream is a software platform that helps companies manage their quality inspections and audits, and I'll show you a bit more about that as we work through. We're going to start with an introduction to project quality management, which Chris will talk through. Now, our perspective is mainly focused around the energy and construction sectors. That's where our backgrounds lie and where we're starting. But you can apply what we're building with the platform to basically any sector that has quality management requirements. And that's the vision of our platform, is to be able to serve all verticals in the near future. We'll then touch on today's methods, so how people currently manage their assurance and control processes. We'll then talk a little on supply chain challenges and the communication issues and admin that can sometimes slow projects down. And then we'll talk you through how we're digitising these processes with BuildStream, and we'll give you a run through a live demo for a project that we've set up today specifically for this webinar. And at the end, hopefully there'll be some questions that are backed up in the chat. We'll address those and then we'll round off. The whole process should take maybe 35 to 40 minutes or so. So yeah, just a quick introduction to Chris and myself. So I'm the CEO of BuildStream. My background has always been in engineering and construction. I did a bachelor's degree in architectural technology, learning about how buildings are put together, and then a master's in renewable energy. Now, through my career, I've worked as a consultant or in-house, doing project management roles, and my work has included projects like HS2 and Crossrail. Now, BuildStream as a business is funded by several investors, and one of them is Innovate UK. Now, Innovate UK is is the government's body for supporting innovation. The aim of Innovate UK is to provide funding so that companies can push boundaries and help the UK PLC become more competitive and attractive for other countries and businesses to work with us. So Innovate UK is funding part of our business, and that's why we're here today, to be able to offer the platform for free to our next trial cohort of users. So if you just bear that in mind as we run through, that would be great. I'll hand over to Chris to introduce himself now.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris Birrell. I operate as a freelance quality consultant, predominantly in the subsea sectors, offshore wind more primarily at the moment, and previously in the oil and gas sectors. Qualified lead auditor 9001, 2015, and a C-SWIP certified welding inspector. And I sit in the function mainly as client representative or inspector at package level, right in the nitty-gritty of the factories, feeding out to projects. Started an apprenticeship 22 years ago, working in a foundry, which got me in the dirty end of the industry, looking after quality as a quality inspector, an auditor, and also looking after clients at that level, and then progressed through to external independent representation, working with major bodies like Lloyd's Register, Bureau Veritas, and lots of others. So we're going to work through basically from high level down to lower level in projects. So we start off with the introduction of project quality management, and then really touching on assurance and quality control and how they work hand in hand, and then the layers of the onion that you see on the image, showing you that assurance is at out level, which is typically defined by the front end documentation and review processes, and then as you get further into the verification of the product through quality control and testing. So we cover quality control here, and where quality control is the measurement of outcomes of processes. So we touch specifically on what we see within the manufacturing for oil and gas and offshore sectors, where you've got testing and inspection, which results in conformance or non-conformance. So your quality control will then lead into the output of, if something's non-conforming, then you trigger another process through quality management. Then you've got the ability to witness critical processes, so the project can look down and say, well, we might want to inspect welding, NDT, or have a third-party body that verifies that for standard requirements. Quality control also covers things like reviewing certification, documentation against material specs or codes. And then the final stage of quality control is the release of the product to the next process or for dispatch to the client. Quality assurance is the overall governing of the documentation that manages the process through procedures, instructions, and a guide to help achieve the desired level of quality on a project, whether that's on a process basis or a product basis. We've touched on the main bullet points here that we cover in further detail further down, but we've got the project quality plan, audits, pre-process audits, and also during process audits, inspection and test plan, procedures down at the actual doing level, technical queries when you get to a point where you need to seek clarification, and then hopefully avoiding, but there's always the non-conformance reporting process. And on the right of the image, we've put lessons learned, which shows that you're trying to have the ongoing cycle of feeding out from production level to project level, where you feed in to improve the process on a constant flow.
I was just seeing that some people are requesting that we make the screen bigger.
Oh, sorry,
so I'm just going to see how we can do that. Just give us one moment here while we figure this out. Okay, so hopefully that solves the screen size problem for everyone. Thanks for raising that.
So touching on the project quality plan, I've put a paragraph in there that basically says that from typically in the energy infrastructure, you'll have the operator or the owner of the asset, and they would have their own project quality plan and how they look to achieve the requirements of the output of that project, right the way through to all the sub-stakeholders, whether that's the manufacturers, the EPC contractors, etc. So, yeah, you can see in the image there that what you're looking to achieve from the project quality plan, it's planning what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I won't go into greater detail on that. Then you've got audits, which I touched on earlier on, which is typically used in advance of a process commencing, so that you can look to mitigate or at least identify risks on certain activities, suppliers, processes, and you use the audits to verify that you're conforming to internal processes and procedures, or also standards, which many of the members of the Chartered Quality Institute will be more familiar with, a lot more standards than I am. But yeah, that's the intention of the audits, really, is to mitigate risk throughout the whole process. Inspection and test plan, which is probably one of the main features that feed into what we'll show you within the platform today. But effectively, this is typically looking at a specific manufacturer or supply chain partner, and identifying within the inspection and test plan all the activities that need to be conducted to perform the output, whether it's a finished product or a service. And then you typically list the procedures that would govern that each activity, the criteria or the requirement from that activity, and then typically there's a record associated with each activity that would form a physical record that sits at project level to show that compliance has been achieved. And then on the right of the image, you see stakeholder intervention. So within an inspection and test plan, you might have the operator or the owner of the plant, the EPC contractor, the manufacturer, and then often, quite significantly, is you'll have third-party inspection requirements for your Lloyds, your Bureau Veritas. So that's quite an intense document and process that needs to be followed. Procedures. I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about procedures, but we just cover the fact that a lot of procedures can be internal. So at the manufacturer, how they do what they do. External could be that you have to have certain documents that go through and up the contracting chain for review and approval, and externally to third parties. Project specific, so that's what I've just touched on, the approval process. And I've given some examples there, factory acceptance tests, drawings, standards, all sorts can be covered procedurally. And then we've put at the bottom that really within your procedures, you want to be giving consideration to the standards that you're looking to achieve within the project and the manufacturer. Technical queries, quite an interesting one, is how, if you come to a crossroads that's not being addressed within the project quality plan or the inspection and test plan, that you need to raise those queries, whether they're internal or external, up to the, through the contracting chain. It is a process that needs to be considered. And then, the non-conformance reporting process, which should really never go away, hopefully just reduce the impact of non-compliance. But I've touched on the fact that it's fundamental within ISO 9001 that identifying and managing non-compliance and communicating through clients is fundamental. The NCR process should be designed that it reduces the cost of quality, because of the fact that if you put effective preventative measures in place, then your lessons learned means that you drive down the cost of non-quality in future. The NCR process is there really to help identify and manage non-compliance. So it's a process of capturing the detail of the non-compliance and then really looking at the next steps in rectifying and eliminating the problem. I've touched on there, outlining remedial requirements and reducing risk of reoccurrence. But often with NCRs within the project space we're talking about, you still need to seek approval from your clients to either continue with the product without reworking it or accept the product under a deviation. Notifications of inspection, which again is fundamental within the industry we're talking about, and also the BuildStream platform. Notifications of inspection are effectively the communication tool that takes the inspection and test plan that we covered earlier and communicates out to the relevant stakeholders when activities are happening, the date, location, the applicable documentation, out to all the relevant stakeholders. And then there's a communication process back to confirm attendance or non-attendance to those inspections. We cover on qualification and certification here, which all forms part of the QC and QA processes. Touch on the three areas really, that you've got certification of personnel, which will fall under competency and the requirements of, for example, we've touched on welder qualifications or the suitable qualification for a non-destructive testing technician. Then we've got equipment certification or calibration certification for the NDT equipment, or non-destructive testing equipment or measuring devices that are used to determine the conformance of the equipment that's being manufactured. And then material certification we've got for compliance, that you're ensuring that the material suits the spec that is defined within the inspection test plan or the other project documents. We've used, for example, parent materials and filler materials for the welding inspection community out there that are on the webinar. So I'll hand back over to Terry now.
So the next part that we're going to look at now is what happens when things go wrong. Now, this case study is something that most people will be familiar with, and it's the BP Gulf of Mexico oil spill. So this happened about 10 years ago and caused about $61 billion worth of financial loss, as well as a huge amount of reputational damage for those involved, and long-lasting environmental damage. Now, when everything washed out, this catastrophe was able to occur because of avoidable issues with QA and QC processes in 8 key areas, including testing procedures, material specification, and more. Now, these issues were small to begin with, but they were able to compound over time, and then they all kind of came together to cause this huge disaster, which really shook the industry. Now, that's one side of it, where a huge disaster can happen, but then day to day, another major issue is around counterfeit products. And we'll send a version of this presentation out for people so you can click those links to read these articles in more detail. But for example, counterfeit steel is a huge issue. and all types of products. We've used bearings as a particularly bad example here, but any type of product, electrical, mechanical, there's huge problems right now in making sure that the products that you're buying are actually genuine and can be relied upon. So in terms of how things are done today, all those requirements that Chris just talked through, they're manifested in some quite manual and traditional ways now. So email, paper, spreadsheets, people using the calendars, meeting minutes, etc. All of this information is captured and transmitted in those methods. Now, this can be really time consuming. It's not very scalable, and it can lead to errors out in the field and on the administration side. And if you think about large projects with multiple activities going on day in, day out, it can really become a burden. If there's any changes, then perhaps it's email notifications or official documents need to go out to people. And there can be, we've had examples of more than 40 people on a notice of inspection thread. Now, as things change, you're going to be spamming people's inboxes, and that can really cause some problems and kind of cause fatigue for everybody involved. And then managing everything across multiple stakeholders. So, along the bottom here, we have the inspections and audits in orange. So that's the kind of key event that we're focusing on right now. But then you have all these different stakeholders that are involved. So it could be a third-party inspector, a vendor, a client, manufacturer, and so on. And they're all kind of brought together around the quality plan that's linked to the commercial contracts that they're all servicing. And just managing all these different people can be really difficult. Your documentation is evolving. Scheduling needs everybody to respond, and if people don't respond, you can have back and forth and hours wasted chasing responses. And in our research, all that has led to the people that we surveyed saying that 45% of intervention points are attended on average. So more than half of intervention points are not attended, and obviously that is a number that people will want to be improving on, so they can make sure that the quality standards are as they need to be in a project. Some of the questions that we asked our network recently were, what are the most common issues that cause delays to inspections? Now, obviously, people want to avoid delays, because delays in inspections might mean that the project can't move on the schedule that you've agreed. And in this case, the number one issue there, with more than 57% of the votes, was documentation. So when we dug into that, it was around people being able to access the document that they're looking for whilst they're on site. People having early access to documents so that they can prepare before they get to site. One of the key issues there was, people getting to site, then trying to dig out a document, and that wasting time when people are there. And then being able to trust that the document that you have is the correct version. And something that can go wrong there is if emails are being used to communicate documentation, it can sometimes be a bit risky, and you might not be 100% confident that you've got the right documentation. If you haven't got the right documentation and you undertake an incorrect procedure, it could lead to rework. Other issues there, the rest of the vote was quite evenly spread between non-attendance, incomplete notice of inspection documentation, and then a few of the smaller issues. So then we dug into what are the main causes of non-conformances. And this was kind of split between personnel and procedural issues. So when we dug into personnel, the main part of that was around the people there on the job having the right skills and experience and qualifications to undertake the task at hand. And around procedures, that was mostly involving, first of all, the right procedures being in place, suitable procedures for the work that needed to be doing, but then also making sure that people had access to the procedures. So again, that one actually links into documentation. So, what all this is telling us is really, there's the key areas here are around the number of complex relationships that are going on between all those different stakeholders, all the work that's going on site, and making sure that people are able to communicate in the right way. So that's where we saw an opportunity for BuildStream to help digitize all that workflow and streamline it and make it more efficient. Now, arranging all these activities is really difficult. So it might be the responsibility of several people along the way. And in our experience, it can involve the quality team, project management team, inspection coordinators, and it also might involve, third parties that you're working with. Now, obviously, this varies from company to company, but generally there are kind of 8 steps. So we need to request an inspection or audit or activity to be undertaken on site. We then need to source the right people to do it. Now, they might be internal resources, it might be an external resource through an agency, or you might try to source somebody competent through a tool like LinkedIn. Now, obviously, that is a whole line of work in itself. There's then the scheduling that needs to take place, and even just phone calls to multiple people, emails back and forth, trying to find a suitable time can be really time consuming and distracting. Something that's changed a lot is global travel. Obviously, remote inspections are on the increase right now, so travel is reducing, but that's also a big admin task. You then have your constantly evolving documentation, which we touched on earlier, an in-person inspection, and there's lots of touch points there that can go wrong. Getting access to site, making sure you're at the right point in site, knowing who you need to meet when you're on site, and then you have your documentation, filing, and then you have all your your admin at the end, like your timesheets, invoices, and payments. Now, some of the companies that we work with have between a few hundred activities per year up to a few thousand, and if you imagine how that scales across different projects, different supply chains for each project, different regions, it can get really complex. So at this point, I'll now actually just move over to a demo of the platform which we set up. So just bear with me one moment. So hopefully everybody can see that, and let me just go back into the platform to check, to Livestorm to check that you can see that. Yeah, so I believe everybody can see the screen here. So when you log into BuildStream as a user, you are able to see all your upcoming activities and visits. So these are the ones that are coming up, or are active already. So you log in and you can quickly see what's the most important. You then you're prompted to then respond to activities where there might be an issue or where you might need to set your attendance. So, this means that if somebody sends you an invite to an inspection, it will pop up here in your feed and you'll be able to quickly, see the key information. You can even click through to it, and then you can set your attendance, and that will notify all the project partners that you're attending. So I'll just run through that now. So I click here, set attendance, mark it as attending, post, and then that's cleared out from my to-do list. We then have a shared calendar. So the shared calendar is where you can see all your team's, inspection, audit, and activity work, and you can filter in or out different projects, or you can view everything. So here I can see we have a coating inspection for project B that's ongoing for a few days. We have a pressure test for project C, and you can see the duration of it, and you can click through to the specific page for that to see all the details if you wish. And we have this calendar view, but then also a list view. So depending on which one you prefer, you could view it in either way. And what we're trying to do here is to reduce the need to flick between different tools and to have to ask colleagues, questions about what's ongoing on each project. So by bringing it into one place, it streamlines that process. So we then go into projects and notice of activities. It's really easy to create a project, and you might do that for an overall project, or you might do it for a package within a project. So the platform is flexible for that. You then set up your stakeholders for that project, which is all very easily done. And we've created a test project to run you through here. So I'll click through, and I can see at project level everybody that's involved, who they work for, what their PO and project IDs are. And then we've set up on this test project 3 NOIs, and I can see on the first 2 there are some areas that need attention, and on the last one everything's fine. So that gives you a kind of top-down view of where you need to focus in on. We also have project level documents. So here you can see everything that's been uploaded, and these documents can cascade down to the NOIs and the visits. You can request signatures from your project partners really easily. So from here, we'll go into NOI 2. And again, I can see everybody that's involved in this project, in this NOI. And this NOI in particular has 2 activities that are going on, one on the 9th, one on the 10th. So on the 9th, it's a material receipt inspection. And again, you can see all the documents have flowed through from the level above. And we've added some new ones in as well. So you might add a procedure or the testing plan at this level. So now this page is what everyone would see in their calendar. So this would be, really easily accessible on your mobile phone when you're out on site. And it's basically everybody that's involved in this, activity visit. So I can see the date and time, and I can add that to my native calendar if I wish. Really easy to do that. So we're integrated with the main calendar tools. And then we've digitized the intervention points. So on this particular inspection visit, we have 2 activities that are ongoing: plate goods in inspection and welding consumable receipt inspection. Now, all the hold and witness points are really easy to see. So I can say, okay, well, look, the whole point is most important here. So I'm going to click into here and see what's happening. Now, for each stakeholder, they can mark their attendance like I showed you before, and they can also track their outcomes. So if I click here, I can see that for this stakeholder, Oliver Reeves has rejected it. He's not attending, but Terry Clarke and Christopher Birrell are attending. And then we can see that the outcome, they've passed 9 of this product and they've queried 1. You can also invite in, an independent verification or inspection body, and everybody can basically track their outcomes and hold conversations around these specific activities. So rather than having multiple activities ongoing and emails back and forth talking about lots of different things, everything is in one place. So for this plate goods in inspection, you can see here I've tagged my colleague Ollie to say there was no material ID on this plate, and I've uploaded a photo. So that's there, for us to see, and it's all in the right context. So no confusion or distractions, or no chance of this getting lost. It's all there in the right place. Now, something in the future is that we'll be working on is analytics. So by structuring this data, so seeing that there's fails, passes, and queries, we'll then be able to run analytics in the future to say, okay, well, these are the products where we have the most issues, or this is a supplier where we have the most issues. Now, as this inspection moves along, we might upload documents like a draft report that people can take a look through and then eventually sign off. And then we also have comments at this visit level. So anybody that's involved from any of those stakeholders can really quickly ask a question and tag one of their colleagues. And that person will see the notification. They'll be able to click in and go directly to this space and to respond to that in the right context. So just to touch on this table as well, actually. So here you can see the intervention points, and it's really easy to toggle between that and the outcomes. So if I came to this visit and I was a project manager and I just wanted to see where the key issues are, I can say, okay, well, these are the whole points. All right, and these are the outcomes, and it's all there. I can see where the fails are, and then kick off a conversation about that, or it might prompt requesting an NCR or some further information. But it means that I'm up to date and I can see what's happening there. So this is how the platform looks at the moment. I'm just going to go back into the Livestorm platform, so just bear with me one moment. Whoops. So in conclusion, what we're doing here is we're basically centralizing and standardizing communications through the platform. By digitizing these, it should reduce errors and save a lot of time and keep everybody up to date and reduce rework. We're aiming to keep projects moving on time and on schedule. And by connecting everybody in the supply chain, we're able to design out a lot of these issues. And the key here really is about enabling collaborative working. So, as people are working remotely and are under more pressure to be more efficient, our aim here is to bring everybody together, take out all the hard manual work, and make things a lot quicker and easier and to de-risk things. As I say, the stage that we're at right now, we've been testing with a cohort of trial clients. If what we're working on here is something that you're interested in, we're opening up phase 2 of this testing. So you can just reach out to me at terry@buildstream.co.uk if you'd like to learn more. AJ asking if this is a document management system also. That's a really good question, AJ. Right now, we're not a full-blown document management system. So what we're aiming to do right now is to be able to just communicate the final documents and to upload ad hoc files, like, there might be a note or it might be an image. So that's where we're focusing right now. In the future, document management is something that we will be looking into. So again, the companies that we're working with in this phase 2 trial will be taking a look into that.
I'll just expand on it a bit as well, AJ, is that we showed the document level, the project level document space. So what I would suggest is that you use your current document management process, but you can just ensure that part of your process is that you've got the latest version uploaded to BuildStream for a project. So it should be reasonably easy just to replace the existing. Then at least all the other stakeholders should have visibility of that. Hopefully that helps.
Just going to keep working through.
Is this a cloud-based?
So Michael Gartland asked, is this cloud-based software? Michael, yes, it is. So it's accessible on the web, so on tablet, phone, and any device with a browser. And everything's stored in the cloud. Something that we'll be looking at in the future is making this a native app as well. John Beadle, we'll be sending out a version of the presentation, and it will also be going on the CQI website. AJ asking how audits are scheduled. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the reason we changed the title of the main feature of the platform is notification of activity. So the audits are just an activity, so you can plan ahead an audit schedule for 12 months, 24 months, whatever, and then just predefine the dates. And then you could just set the stakeholders up so that you have the audit team within an organization, and then the other stakeholders can just be other departments in the organization so that are being audited. Hopefully that helps, but happy to clarify on another call or email, AJ.
Yeah, AJ, I would say just drop us an email after this, and we can pick up on that in a little bit more detail. Yeah. So Howard Cooper is asking, have we considered security requirements of this application? The answer is yes. We know that, I think if you're asking around data security, obviously that's really important for clients in this space. So all private data here is encrypted, and we're using the required technical standards. You can also control the permissions in your project for who sees what. So once you create a project and you start uploading information, it's only visible to the people that you choose. So there's no chance of it, being seen by others unless you choose. Trevor's asking what the sign-off. Trevor is asking, does the sign-off? How does the sign-off process for documents work? So right now, Trevor, we're not replacing a document management system. So in our platform, you can request a signature for a document. That's kind of stage one that we're focusing on right now. And that would mean you just select that document, you select who you wish to send it to for a signature. They'll get a notification in their email, and then the tool enables them to, in a few clicks, to sign that document, and then it updates into the platform, and that finished file is there for you to view and download.
I think you could consider examples of like release notes, inspection release notes that could be embedded that way. As Terry says, the formal documentation management process would still be offline of the platform for now.
So the next question is from Stafford Carr. Is there a configurable format for audit plans and reports? Do you need some clarification on that question?
I think so. Possibly, Stafford. Maybe we could have a chat offline, or just elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that. But I think my interpretation is there a way of formatting the platform display to give you something that represents what you've already got visually? Not at the moment, but if that doesn't answer your question, then send the email over to Terry and we'll look to address it better.
The next one. Are we down to here on Anthony Moorhead?
Yeah.
So Anthony Moorhead has asked, is it a password entry for security? So Anthony, I think what you mean there is, do people need to have a profile with? Actually, Anthony, could you clarify what you mean there? Whether you mean how people access the project space, or how they sign up to the platform. By signing up to the platform, you authenticate via your email. Everybody has a username and password then. And if you're invited into a project space, it will be by the project owner. So they're in control of who's in there. They can control your permissions and add and remove people. I hope that answers your question, Anthony, but just feel free to drop us an email if not.
So we'll just jump forward to Stafford's question about tracking multi-NCs. Is that multi-non-compliances? I'm not entirely sure what that point means. I take it it's related back to your previous about the audit plans reports. We'll jump back to Howard Cooper. Does the application link out with other systems? I can see your point on the NCR management system, Howard. So it's just intended that you don't have to create the NCR in that platform. It just gives you the ability to put the output. What I would say is that if that system, you could generate a link to the NCR, then you could put a link into the platform just within the comments area, or you could just put the reference number in, so you've got an audit trail there. So yeah, at the moment we're not looking to duplicate. It's just to ease the management of. In time, we would hope that the platform is well embraced by clients, and then we look to develop a non-conformance system within, so that everything's all embedded in one space. But that's for the future.
I guess as well, just on that, Howard, yeah, it's a good question. There's obviously lots of different tools that people use for different things. I guess one example is the calendar integrations that I showed you. So where we see the platform going in the future is having what we call API connections to other tools where it's suitable. So if an enterprise client has a specific set of tools that they're using that have APIs, then it's possible that we could link back and forth between our two platforms. So we really want to make this a flexible and adaptable platform that can connect with tools that are already in use.
I think AJ's got a question there saying, will there be a summary of welding progress, NDT progress? So that would be down to how you would set up the activities effectively, AJ. So if you defined every step of a welding process specific to a serial number or anything like that, then by defining if it was a pass, then that would help you see how you're progressing through the ITP or the activities. In the future, yeah, we definitely will be looking to enhance the scheduling features, but it is able to be managed at the moment anyway, just by purely a pass, fail, or query outcome. Hope that helps. So yes, tracking multiple non-conformances, so beyond. Yeah, so Stafford, yeah, so effectively, hopefully the comment, I think it was from Howard, was that your existing NCR process should still take precedence at the moment. So effectively, it's just a way of capturing the NCR. What I would say is that if you have to plan rework, then the likelihood is you'd have to then enter the activity that covered the verification of that rework. If there isn't rework, then you would just have a concession that would take precedence. So the platform at the moment, I wouldn't say is something that you would say would cover. You wouldn't necessarily change it to a pass. You could just, by default, it directs you to the NCR. And then if you have an audit trail, then you can see that that NCR is closed on the other system that verifies that. Hope that helps answer that. If there's any further concerns, either put them up here or on email, that's fine. And Trevor, any comments from clients? So yeah, have you had the question from Trevor is, have you had any comments from clients that you are working with regarding the benefits of using the platform? Terry, do you want to?
Yeah, so the first set of features that we've built in have been done really closely with those clients. So we ask them, where are the areas that you're experiencing the most problems? And it might be, scheduling rework, for example, is one of the key ones. So, people were going back and forth with emails trying to work out scheduling. So, we put that in first and foremost. So that's saving a lot of time for them. And we're in the process of quantifying that and creating case studies, which you'll see us promoting in the next couple of months or so. I think clarity on the documentation. So even though document management systems do exist, there's still loads of cases where people will get to site and they'll not have access, or there'll be some kind of problem with a login or permission, for example. So document management, document access has been one where we've helped to reduce issues out in the field. And then I think the kind of shared schedule is another one. So, having the calendar where you can see everything that's going on in one place, has been really useful for people. So they know that they log into the platform and they can quickly see and filter out, the important and unimportant things and get an overview of every project.
I could probably expand on that, Trevor, from personal experience. Is the amount of times I'll turn up at a factory and somebody will go, didn't even know you were coming. Not because I hadn't confirmed it just hadn't filtered through from the project team down to the manufacturer level. The other thing as well is the documentation. So there may be a doc control system in place for the manufacturer, but that also filters up through the contracting chain and back down again. So by having the latest version on the platform, at least then as a third party or a freelancer, I've got access to what I believe to be the latest document that everybody, so the person who invited me, i.e. my client, is also got that visibility. But if I really wanted to, I can tag them in a comment on the platform and say, are you comfortable with all the latest versions? And that we can see. So rather than me having to attach them or type the name and revision out, I can just ask and they can respond. So we're looking to really address those, which are real problems at ground level, Trevor.
I would say as well, the other one was being able to respond to activity invitations and having the ability to see where your input is required. Often things like that will be hidden in emails. So that feature was a request from one of our trial clients, and we built it really quickly, and it works so that it shows people where they need to take an action straight away as soon as they log in. Okay, well, that was a good Q&A.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone, for your questions there. If there's any further ones, do pass them through now, if you can. And if not, you can email me or Chris. My email's terry@buildstream.co.uk. Chris is chris@buildstream.co.uk. Somebody's typing here, just a last-minute question. So what? Oh, thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
So yeah, I would just round off by saying, thank you to everybody for attending. Thanks to Trevor and the CQI team for partnering up with us on this. It's been a really great experience, and I think we'll do more. I think the discussion here that we've had has been really, really great. So keep an eye out. And then finally, the process that we're at with the platform, we have phase 2 of our trials that are opening up soon. So if this is something that you or your company or somebody in your supply chain you think could benefit from, do let us know. We have the resources through Innovate UK to be able to really get involved and help people embed what we're doing and to spend some time on that. So yeah, again, you can reach out to terry@buildstream.co.uk.
Thanks, everyone.
Just wait for David to finish typing.
Right.
Thanks, Christian. See you later, everybody.